Hello, welcome to another video. Today I am going to be talking about the books that I think I might rate 5 stars. These are my anticipated 5-star reads. I am very hesitant when making these kind of videos because I don't want to put pressure on myself to have certain expectations of a book and therefore not have those expectations. However, there are reasons behind all these picks. I'm going to go into them, but these are the books that I'm hoping and predicting I will rate 5 stars. So I've got 10 to go through. The first of which on the list is an educated guess. This is Robert James Waller's 1,000 Country Roads. This is the sequel to The Bridges of Madison County, which is one of my favourite books. If you have watched my recent videos, you'll know I reread this book at the start of 2023 and I really loved it, and it secured it still as a 5-star read for me. This is the sequel that I didn't know existed until people told me online after me saying how much I love the first book. I feel silly for not knowing this existed, but I am now very excited to read this one, and I'm kind of waiting to pick the right moment for this. This follows one of the characters from the first book, who I think is my favourite of the two. The first book follows 2 people having an affair. It's very short, it's very fleeting. One of them's in an unhappy marriage, the other is a National Geographic photographer who is in the area for a photo shoot. This is mainly following Richard from the first book and his journey, but I think there are fleckers from Francesca, who is the woman in the first book as well. It's hard to tell without having read it, but I really hope this one is another 5-star read for me. Another book I'm hoping is going to be a 5-star read is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I'm entirely basing this off of how much I loved Cloud Cuckoo Land, which is probably one of my favourite books of all time and definitely of last year. That book was fantastic. It made me cry, it captured my heart, it was just so full of so many different layers that I just bloody adored it. So I'm hoping this one does the same. This is set in Paris, and it's actually one I wanted to bring with me to Paris. However, I'm quite glad I didn't because it was super chonky and I didn't really get much reading done anyway whilst I was over there. So this is following a young girl. She's 6? Yes, she is 6. She's experiencing all these different things, and then the Nazis invade Paris, and it's about her life during that time. I think if Cloud Cuckoo Land is anything to go off, this is going to make me cry and is going to be very emotional. This is published before Cloud Cuckoo Land. It's obviously very well received. I know a lot of people love this book, and this is one I would like to get to very soon, but this is one I'm hoping will be a 5-star read. Most of these are based off of the fact that I've enjoyed other books by the same author, and that's why they're on this list. But following that trend, we have Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. I read Kindred by Octavia E. Butler a few years ago and it was phenomenal. Like, seriously fantastic book. And this one I know is a very, very well loved book, also by Octavia E. Butler. So I'm hoping that I love this one as much as I did Kindred. This, I think, leans a little bit more into the fantasy side. Sorry, hang on. I'm saying that. Kindred was literally about a woman that was jumping backwards in time, so obviously that had a huge sci-fi fantasy element to it. This one follows a woman who can feel, has an ability power to feel other people's pain. She records everything she sees in a journal, and one terrible night everything alters beyond recognition and she must make her voice heard for the sake of those she loves. Soon her visions become reality and her dreams of a better way to live gain the power to change humanity forever. And then the tagline at the bottom of this is, all that you touch you change, all that you change changes you. There's a review on the bottom from Gloria Steinem that says, if there is one thing scarier than a dystopian novel about the future, it's one written in the past that has already begun to come true. This is what makes Parable of the Sower even more impressive than it was when it was first published. Obviously this is a phenomenal book already, it's very highly talked about, it's very highly regarded. From my feelings towards Kindred, I can only assume that this one is also going to be a 5-star read for me. Then we have The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. Now, I read The Maidens by Alex Michaelides a few years ago and I liked it. I know a lot of people did not like that book, but I did like it, and I liked the writing style and I just thought it was quite a fun, fast-paced, dark academia-y, thrillery read. This one is meant to be better, so I'm hoping that I enjoy this one. Again, I know that a lot of people didn't like The Maidens, so I don't know what that means my stance on this one will be, but this has been on my TBR for a while, and I do really need to get to this because I love a good thriller and I read them so fast anyway. This is about a woman who kills her husband and hasn't spoken since, and that is pretty much all I know about it. But as I said, I love a thriller. I always find them really fun and interesting reads. Fun sounds like the wrong word when talking about a thriller, but hopefully you know what I mean. So again, I'm assuming this one's going to come out as a 5-star, given that I liked The Maidens and a lot of people didn't and have said this one is better. So if this one's better, that hopefully means I'm going to really enjoy it. Also though, I would be interested to see if The Maidens stands the test of time for me, and whether it was just something I enjoyed at the time because it just hit the right note for me, and whether I would actually enjoy it if I read it now or not. I think sometimes it's very situational when you read certain books as to whether you enjoy them or not, so I'd be interested to see if that one applies. Because of the amount of dislike I've seen for it online, I think that just makes me intrigued to see what I would think if I reread it. Maybe that's a future video idea. I don't know, rereading old favourites and seeing if they still stand up. Just giving myself a video idea. Anyway, I'm hoping and thinking that this won't be a 5-star. This is The Anomaly by Hervé Letellier. This I have no real reason to base on other than the plot for thinking it might be a 5-star read. If you've watched the TV show Manifest, and if you haven't, go watch the TV show Manifest, this gives me serious Manifest vibes. So I bought this one in the Christmas sales, not that this was in the sale, but I bought it at that time, this year, or last year, well, the Christmas of 2022. And the concept has me hooked. There is a flight that during a storm duplicates. For every passenger, there are now 2 passengers, a double with the same mind, body, and memories. Only one thing sets them apart. While one plane lands in March, the other doesn't arrive till June. I literally gave myself goosebumps reading that out. This sounds such an interesting concept. Why have I not read this one yet? This, honestly, the concept of this sounds very compelling, like something that I'm going to have to read to the end of, and if it's done well, I think this one will come out as a 5-star because that is just such a cool concept, and I love the links to Manifest, which is a TV show I absolutely love, where there's a plane that goes missing and then returns 5 years later, and how that affects everybody. I think this is going to pose some really interesting questions of this element of there being a double but with exactly the same thought process and mind and memories and everything. That I think is going to be a really interesting question this book is going to handle. So I am really excited to read this one, and I'm hoping I love it as much as I want to. I have been putting off this for a while. This is The Labyrinth of the Spirits by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. This is one of my favourite series of all time, and I haven't finished it. This book came out within the last 5 years, I want to say. Unfortunately, the author has now passed away, so we are definitely not getting anything more within the Cemetery of Forgotten Books world, but I do think this is the general conclusion of that series anyway. The Shadow of the Wind is the first book. It's a book about books, it's a mystery, it's historical, it's got so many fantastic elements to it, and I absolutely love that book. The other 2 books in the series that I have read haven't been as good. The second one, The Angel's Game, was decent, but it kind of lost its thread for me a little bit. And the third book, which I've completely forgotten the name of, which is awful, hang on, The Prisoner of Heaven, was decent, but it just didn't have the same link to it that The Shadow of the Wind had. However, this is obviously going to be tying everything together. This is following our main character as he tries to find out more about the death of his mum. But there is this magical, clever linking to this Cemetery of Forgotten Books within this whole series, which is basically this place where you go and you only know about it if you are in, like, the group of people that know. Like, it's a kind of society community thing where it's passed down from generation to generation, and our main character is brought there as a child, and you basically are able to pick a book and you get to take that book with you, and that is your book that you've chosen from the Cemetery of Forgotten Books. And there is a bit of a danger surrounding the book that our character picks when he is a child, or like there's a mystery and an intrigue that turns into a slight danger. That is the kind of establishing plot for this series, and this is the 4th and final installment, and it's huge. I have not read this yet because I have an issue with endings. Just gonna completely call myself out for this. I really struggle to finish things because I don't like to say goodbye. I don't like things to end, and that stems from many different things in my life. And I really do notice that when it comes to books and when it comes to TV. There are TV series that I just won't end because I can't deal with the ending happening. An example being Fresh Meat, if anyone ever watched that. Great show about people at university. Happened to come out, each season came out for each year I was at university. It followed so closely to my life that I could never finish the series because I struggled leaving uni so much. I was so sad to go that I couldn't watch the episode they left until about a year ago when I rewatched it all and I cried. So yeah, I have an issue with endings. I'm not ready for this series to end, especially because the author has passed away. That just, it really finalises it all. So I think this one will be 5 stars because I think that I'm going to have an emotional investment in it. but I'm also too daunted and too scared at the end to read this. So I need to. Maybe this will hold me accountable because I want to tell you if it actually came out as 5 stars. On slightly lighter tones, we have Careering by Daisy Buchanan. This one is on here because this really gives me Dolly Alderton ghost vibes in the way that we are following a young woman trying to make her way in the world. This is a contemporary fiction following 2 different women's paths in their career. One of them is launching a new website and wants writers, and the other one is trying to become a writer and wants to, or like ends up working in conjunction with this website. And these 2 women are having different experiences but working together throughout those experiences. One is exploiting the other, and it's about how that works and how their kind of work-life balance works. I think this one's going to be a really interesting read. I think it's going to probably be a book that comments on society and comments on feminism, given that the website is a fierce feminist site that's being published. So I think there's going to be some really interesting things to be said there. Basing my thoughts on ghosts and how much I love that. I know obviously this is a different author and will be a completely different writing style, but I have read some bits before from Daisy Buchanan's writing, so I'm hoping, based on those things, that this is one of those ones that hits me with the relatable moments, and that is why I'm putting in this video and thinking that it might come out as a 5-star read. This is entirely based off of the fact that I absolutely adored The Last House on Needless Street. This is Sundial by Katrina Ward. Also, this edition is absolutely stunning. I know very little about this book and I'm quite happy about that because I went into The Last House on Needless Street knowing nothing, pretty much. The blurb gave nothing away, and I think that is the best kind of blurb. And that book was fantastic. So this came out last year. I don't even want to read the blurb properly, but the top line of it is, "You can't escape the desert, you can't escape Sundial." I know this is about a mum and a daughter, and that the mum is starting to scare the daughter in some way, but that is about it. I have read this blurb before, but I'm kind of allowing my brain to forget parts of it because I just want to go into this knowing as little as possible. I haven't really heard much about this yet, so I don't know how well it's been received, but the reviews on the front are saying it's fantastic. We have enthralling, elegantly horrifying, thrilling and breathtaking. So I am hoping that I enjoy this one as much as I did The Last House on Needless Street, but I shall see and I will let you know if I do. Of course, I've got a Grady Hendrix book on this list. This is How to Sell a Haunted House. This is Grady Hendrix's latest release that came out last month. This one follows a brother and sister. Their parents have passed away and they have to sell their house, but the house has other plans and doesn't really want to be sold. I really enjoy Grady Hendrix's writing style. Every single book they write is completely different from the last, and I adore that about it. I really enjoyed the Final Girl support group, which felt like it took a very different direction to previous books that I'd read, like Horror Store and the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. So I'm thinking that this one is going to be more in the direction of the Final Girl support group, but I don't know. That one for me, was that a 4.5 or a 5 stars? Grady Hendrix's books all tend to sit around the 4 to 5 star range for me, so I thought this was a good educated guess to put in this video, but I have high hopes for this. I'm excited to get to this one soon as well. This is a very new release. I was saving a lot of spooky books for October time, but I think that puts too much pressure on me to read them all at that time of year, and I also really enjoy horror in general, so I'm hoping this will be one I can get to this month or next month, because it is on my TBR for February, but I haven't been very good at sticking to that TBR yet. Finally on this list, book number 10 is Ruth Ozeki's The Book of Form and Emptiness. This one has been on some TBRs, or like last month's TBR? I don't know, this has been on a TBR, I didn't get to it. I'm daunted by this book, I'm not gonna lie, it's chonky, but it is one that I think I'm gonna really like when I do read it, because it sounds like it's just got some subtle nods of little strange oddities that are happening that are really interesting and appealing to me. This follows a 13-year-old boy who starts to hear voices of objects in his house a year after his musician father has passed away. This is obviously quite weird for him, and I love how strange the element of this is, that he can hear these objects talking to him and he can understand what they're saying and their emotional tone about what they're saying as well. He ignores them. It's something that follows him outside onto the streets when he's at school. It's something that he can't get away from. And then I love this part of the blurb. I think this is really what sold it for me. Benny discovers a strange new world where things happen. He falls in love with a mesmerising street artist with a smug pet ferret who uses the library as her performance space. He meets a homeless philosopher poet who encourages him to ask important questions and find his own voice among the many. And he meets his very own book, a talking thing who narrates Benny's life and teaches him to listen to the things that truly matter. I feel like this is going to be a journey. I don't know if it's going to be an emotional read or not, but I think it's going to be a very good one. So those are my 10 books that I think I'm going to give 5 stars to, tentatively. What I thought would be fun, hopefully, is to do reading vlogs for these books. Not necessarily a reading vlog per book, maybe like some joined into one vlog, but reading vlogs for these books to let you know if I do actually rate them 5 stars. So throughout the year, because I'm being generous to myself, I'm going to attempt to do this. I'm going to try and actually read these books, because I feel like I do these videos and then I don't ever end up reading them, and then those books are the books you see next year when I'm telling you what books I think might be 5 stars. So I want to actually commit to saying I'm going to read these books, I'm going to create the content, I'm putting it out there, it's going to happen. So I will let you know if I do actually rate these 5 stars. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please do give it a thumbs up. Comment down below if you've read any of these books, if there's any you think I should start with, and what 5-star predictions you have for your TBR. You can subscribe to see more of my face on your feed, and link down below you can find my Patreon where I do lots of extra content, and also my online shop. Thank you so much for watching, keep smiling and stay positive.